There's a lot of common fundamental mistakes I see when spectating various players, and mistakes I even see from myself or even at high tables at stream tournaments and stuff like that. So today we are looking at One Piece fundamentals. The first fundamental we're going to look at is when to attack. So unless you're playing Whitebeard, I typically would not attack with units unless you're at about 3 life. Let's go ahead and look at this board state here. I have 5 down, I'm on my 3rd turn, and my opponent's in this board state. If I swing with these units, they're just going to get overtaken by my opponent's units and leader, and they're not going to bother swinging at life. And the problem with this is that if you rest your units too early, they'll become the target of your opponent's attacks, as I just said, and your resources will be drained, and you won't be able to maintain a board, and your opponent will take all your life at once after all your resources have been drained. So rather than swinging with these, we just establish a unit. Then our opponent's next turn, they probably won't swing their unit either. They'll swing at us. We're at 3 life, and then we can start popping off. But that's a very important fundamental that I see a lot of people mess up. So off the rip, just know when to attack. I would generally just wait until you're at about like just when you take some life. After you've taken like 2 to 3 life, then you can go ahead and start playing the resource game. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about powerful characters. Let's go ahead and look at Thatch here, right? As you can see here, Thatch is an 8k body, and this is extremely powerful because it has power either equal to or greater than our own leader. The thing that makes this really nice is, one, you can hit the opponent's leader without any down investment, but on top of that, the opponent has to commit many more resources in order to hit this rather than the leader. So your opponent actually negs when they try to clear a unit that's bigger than the opponent's leader. And this is very important because one thing I saw in set one, a common mistake people would make, it says Green Kid trying to clear the opponent's 9-cost Mihawk rather than just trying to swing at the opponent's leader. Typically, unless the opponent is very low on resources or you have enough powerful attackers, you should avoid swinging at characters with a higher power than the opponent's leader to deny giving your opponent value. Imagine spending multiple turns trying to clear Mihawk. You basically give the opponent their own 9,000 power 8-cost kid for no reason. It's also important to note for this same reason that debuff cards such as Gordon and Otama are very powerful because they make clearing these powerful units a lot more efficient. Next up, we'll be talking about how you should clear characters. So typically, you should generally make an attack that's 2,000 above the character you're trying to clear in order to try to hit it. So in this case, if I'm really trying to clear Zoro here, I'm probably going to swing 7 at it. That way, the opponent has to commit at least 2 cards out of the hand, right? Which would be like a 2k and a 1k. Unless they had down up, then maybe they could guard point or something. So you generally want to swing at least 2k above, because they're going to have to commit 2 cards out of hand to protect it. And even if they do protect it, that's 2 less cards they have in their hand, which is huge for us because the mid game in this game is basically like a resource game. So the more cards we get out of our opponent's hand, the better. But if you're really trying to clear it as well, I would probably swing 7 at it twice. Or if you do need the unit to die, I would swing like 4k above it and stuff like that, just to clarify. But the way to clear units such as like that, which are bigger than the opponent's leader, are different. So when you're swinging at like a character that's equal to the opponent's leader, you generally want to swing low to high. So you want to swing like a bunch of 5s at it first. The reason for this is that it's just very easy to swing a bunch of 5s into a unit like Zoro. But when it comes to a unit like Thatch, if we're really trying to clear it, we want to start with the biggest attack first. So we would rather swing like 10k into Thatch to try to clear it, and then swing like a bunch of the lower units at leader. Or even better yet, we don't swing at Thatch at all and go leader. Or if we have a debuff card like Gordon, we can debuff Thatch and then we can swing a bunch of 5s at it and then swing 7 at it to try to clear it. So how you attempt to clear units in this game is very, very important because you don't want to give your opponent too much value. Like let's say I had 10 Dawn. If I swing 15k at Thatch, sir, I guarantee clear Thatch, but my opponent gets too much value out of me swinging 10k at Thatch. So I would rather swing like 10k at it in order to force like 2 cards out of the opponent's hand, or I would rather swing like, yo, can this refresh? Or I'd rather swing like 12k at it, this is 12k, which requires like 3 cards out of hand unless they have an event, which is also huge. Or we just don't swing at it at all and we just go face. So that's just something that's very important to know. As I just said, like, you do want to be very mindful of how you're clearing units. And I do also want to spend on this point, it's very important to swing low to high against like lower power units, because if you just swing 7 at Zoro off the rip and they take it, the Zoro's like a pseudo guard point, right? Like it essentially just absorbed a 5k attack. But if you do swing a bunch of 5s at it first and you do happen to successfully kill Zoro, then you get to swing 7 at face, which will almost guaranteed be successful, or the opponent will have to commit a lot of resources in order to defend it. Next up, we're going to talk about 6K blockers. 6K blockers have to be the most broken thing in the game. And in order to counteract these blockers, it's basically best to attack 5K with the unit first, and then make all our other attacks like 6K and higher. So basically the reason 6K attackers are so powerful is that most leaders are 5K. So being able to have like a 6K base is very strong, because like, let's say we swing like 5 or something, right? They can just block it, and then we really want to clear this blocker, so maybe we just do this, right? Now it just absorbed 2 attacks for like no reason. Or if we swing like a bunch of high attacks first, like we go like 7, 7, like 7, and then our last attack is 5, our opponent just gets a free block for no reason. So this makes 7K blockers very, very powerful. So in order to counteract it, as I kind of briefly just said earlier, you generally want to do like 1 or 2 5K attacks first. So let's look at this situation here. It's very easy for me to just go like 5, see if they block it or not. If they don't block it, I can go like 6. I can go ahead and go 6. Then I can go 8. The reason you go 8 here is because if they do block with it, now they're going to need a 2K and a 1K in order to defend this unit. So either they let the attack go through, or they typically give up the blocker because they don't want 2 cards out of their hand. And then I can go ahead and use the remaining down to establish more units. So this is basically the best way to attack around 6K blockers. I know a lot of people see 6K blockers and they get confused. Like maybe they'll just go like 6 on like all the attacks. But you can generally save a down by just doing like 1 5K attack first and seeing how they react. If they block with it, cool, we can go 8 at this, or we can just like start swinging a bunch of like 5s that are at the opponent's face and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of ways to deal with 6K blockers, so I would just keep the rules I just said in mind. In this game, you really want to make sure you're playing around triggers. This is going to be pretty short, but basically, here's what happens, right? If I do 4 Dawn, play Teach, and then swing 5, and they hit Jet Pistol, my Teach is gone for no reason. But if I swung 5 first, they check Jet Pistol, they can decide whether to use it or not. Let's say they don't use it. Then I can just play Teach for 4, and they didn't just kill one of my units for free. Alternatively, if Teach was on the board, there it is. If Teach was on the board and I'm on my 6th Dawn turn, before playing any units, I can make Teach 7K power. So we just make it 7K here. I can swing face. Bam, they check Jet Pistol. Now they can't kill Teach. I can swing with Teach. I can swing with my buggies. I can swing with like a buggy or something. And then I can go ahead and establish like a 4-cost marker or something. And then I also didn't run the risk of getting hit by Jet Pistol out of life instead. So generally, if you can afford to like commit Dawn to making your units out of range of Jet Pistol, or if you can just avoid playing units before attacking life, then you can successfully play around triggers. So I would just learn about the various triggers in the game. Like there's impact waves, so like Islam, maybe you want to keep like an extra Dawn open, or against Ace they have like a gazillion triggers, so you just want to let the units on board die or make them all more powerful. That way you don't get blasted by them. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and talk about the rules of lethal. So basically, if the opponent's life is at 0, don't bother attacking any of your opponent's units with power equal to their leader or more. The reason for this is if they can defend that character you're attacking that's equal to the leader or more, then they also can't defend their leader. So just attack the leader. This has to be the biggest mistake I see people make. There's just no point in attacking any unit with equal or more power than the opponent's leader if they can't defend their leader. If they can't defend their leader and they let that unit go, you just gave them a free blocker for no reason. I didn't cover everything today, but these are some of the most important fundamentals that any new player should learn and any existing player should check to make sure they are doing. Let me know if this video helped you and if there's anything similar you would like to see in the future. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.